Welcome to week 18 of Band of Bettors. We are excited for the final week of the NFL season. Brad Kronthal, Spencer Kronthal, we got a great quick show for you today. So you know everything you need to know going into the final week of the NFL season and then into the playoffs. Spencer, want to start this show by calling out Damar Hamlin. Our thoughts and prayers are with him, his family, his teammates, the Buffalo Bills organization. He is currently in critical condition at the time of the recording. Hope everything goes well with him. So before we start anything today, just want to call that out. Scary situation on Monday night in Cincinnati. Hope everything with Damar Hamlin and his condition improves, and hope for the best for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Puts everything into perspective. Damar Hamlin's life, his health, his well-being absolutely comes first. Football doesn't matter after that point.
Yeah, and what happens with that game, that'll be all sorted out eventually. But like you said, doesn't matter. The health and well-being is at the forefront of level of importance here. So wishing the best to him, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. So kind of relaying that into what we saw in week 17 prior to the Monday night. Pretty wild week. Some things happened that we certainly didn't expect. I know for me, I'll start with a call out. Who the heck would have expected San Francisco and Las Vegas to go to overtime? Scoring over 60 points combined heading into overtime, and the 49ers eventually coming away with the win. But all that talk about Derek Carr being benched so they don't have to pay him, and that is why they did it. But, the thought Devontae Adams is going to be gone. Devontae, he had a huge game. So a great, interesting game there. Definitely not one I saw from the betting angle to bet on Las Vegas, a wild card, but that was one of my surprising moments from week 17. Anything that stuck out to you otherwise?
Oh, well, definitely Devontae and the Raiders. I was in the fantasy football championships in my league, and I thought I was done for because Devontae put up less than 10 points in the last 3 weeks. Devontae goes for 30 plus, at least in my half-point PPR league. Still pending on that last game, but Devontae Adams going off was definitely a shocker to me. I think
Seven
one other
receptions, 153 yards, two
two
receiving
touchdowns.
touchdowns for Adams. Stidham was 23 of 34 for 365 yards and three touchdowns. He did have two interceptions. But if you're the Raiders, I didn't expect that out of him. First career start. Brock Purdy, he's still perfect. He's reminded me of a young Tom Brady kind of coming out of nowhere and just leading a successful team to victory after victory after victory. And they have a full head of steam heading towards the playoffs.
They look awesome. I think another team that's looking really, really clicking, and not one we expected right now. Talk about the Lions. Jared Goff. Looking back to his form that Super Bowl season, not the Super Bowl playoffs of that season, but the Super Bowl season, regular season, where Jared Goff was unstoppable. This Lions team, not that the Bears are any good, but to put up 41 points on a division rival and a team that's given them trouble over the years, get to 8-8. If they win next week, I think it's against Green Bay. I know they need a couple other dominoes to fall to get in the playoffs. They win next week, a 9-8 season for Dan Campbell. That ship is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, the Lions at home are just a totally different team than what they are on the road. ATS, they're just fantastic. 2022 at home versus on the road. They're 7-2 ATS at home. That number kind of stuck out to me. Like, how do they have 9 home games? Well, now it's a 17-game season. That happens. You don't have 8-8 anymore. 7-2 ATS as the home team. Really fun team to watch. Again, putting up over 40 points. They always became that tough team over the season to bet when they put up 40 points, and then they're playing a struggling team on the road, and they can't put up as many points on the road. So they've been a really interesting team to watch. Still fighting for the playoffs. Low shot, I'd say, but they still have some skin in the game there heading into the final week of the season. So I did want to go back last week, Spencer. Let's touch upon our bets. We'll start with you as you were able to track them, and let's see how you did.
Yeah, so I think the week before I touched on some close hits, some close misses. This week was the opposite. I ended up going 2-4. NFC North did me no help this week. I had Minnesota and Chicago both covering as underdogs. Finally, I had Carolina as well. My two hits, though, I had Denver. I thought 13.5 was a lot to cover. They ended up only losing by three, obviously, to Kansas City. Russell Wilson, maybe it's Jerry Rosburg
Yeah.
turning the tide there, getting Nathaniel Hackett out. Everything seems to click. Still couldn't pull out the victory, but that's a massive difference from what they've been looking like all season. Then also had Cleveland taking it over Washington. Not sure why Ron Rivera is so quick to move to Carson Wentz. He looked atrocious this past week. Obviously, Taylor Heineke helped get them in this position. Is this the end of Wentz?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lose lose for Washington, but for me, sure, Heineke stunk it up the week before, but who are you going to go with? The guy that's won you the games and put you in this position to actually compete for a playoff spot, or Wentz, who's been out for the last couple months and really didn't prove much beforehand? They go with Wentz, and it was as expected. He's been terrible all year as he was the last couple seasons. Really, really tough for them. So my picks, I wasn't able to go on bet stamp this week. Was traveling for the New Year's weekend, but still bet them. So let's go through them. So one Cleveland, +2 came in at that, and then one Denver. Like you said, I don't know if that was Jerry Rosburg or just the lack of Nathaniel Hackett, but they look good. And the Chiefs at home, big home favorites, unable to cover once again. I think they only have 3 wins ATS this season, so we've seen that trend over the last couple of years. The Chiefs really being pushed as these big home numbers against the spread and not being able to cover them, but still winning the game. So had those wins, lost Carolina +3, lost Minnesota +3.5. That was just a shellacking in Green Bay. They are playing with a purpose there. The Packers are. And then one still open, obviously, from Monday night, Buffalo. I took it -1.5 at Cincinnati. We'll see what happens there in this week and beyond. We'll see how that plays out. But wanted to touch upon some futures today. Season's winding down, and we're going to look at some DraftKings odds here in a second. Let's start here. Super Bowl. We're heading into the final week of the season. Nearly the entire playoff bracket is filled out, minus 2 spots and a couple seedings. Is there anyone that you like right now that's sticking out to you as a team that you may see value in before the playoffs start, or as a favorite heading into the final week of the season? And we'll rehash this next week before the playoffs start, see all the lines. But right now, there's some value before that final week, as you may see some Philly at +550, but if they get that 1 seed, they're going to go down. Have shorter odds. Who do you like right now where the odds are set?
Now, look, I look at this chart and I see that there's 5 teams that I think realistically have a good shot at taking this home, and it's the top 5 teams. It's Buffalo, KC, Philly with a healthy Jalen Hurts, San Francisco with their version of Tom Brady, like you said, Brock Purdy leading the ship, and Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, Chase, and Higgins leading that offense. I mean, the defense is much improved as well. One team that stands out, I just think it's very interesting because I look at the middle tier teams. I mean, Tampa Bay, I don't see them having much of anything. Green Bay, I know they've won 4 in a row. I don't see it. Baltimore, that offense is in complete disarray with or without Lamar Jackson. Minnesota gets a little interesting, but the one that's actually I think is kind of interesting from a real long shot, real sleeper is Jacksonville. I mean, talk about a team that does have the pieces in place. Trevor Lawrence and that offense, I mean, he's got a championship pedigree. If they wanted to click everything, could they strike all 4 or 5 in a row? Maybe.
Yeah, that's an interesting call. I mean, that's playing the odds here. You're thinking that they have to go in and beat Tennessee next week. Obviously, to get into the playoffs, Tennessee starting Josh Dobbs again, but they did give a tough fight to Dallas in Week 17. I don't see it. Jacksonville, great odds, +4,500. If they get in, they'll probably shorten a little bit for sure. There's one team that I love right now, and there's one team that I may throw some sense on here. So the team that I love is in the toughest conference, the NFC. Love the 49ers. Question is Purdy going to be the guy to lead them to where they need to be? Is the quarterback position strong enough when you are facing Philadelphia or Dallas or even Tampa Bay? So in these playoffs, the NFC is tough, especially on the road if they had to do that in the next couple rounds. So 49ers still fighting for that, higher seed. A team I really like that seems to be peaking and getting healthy, LA Chargers. It seems like every year they're that type of wild card team. Herbert's playing well. They just got Bosa back. Mike Williams is back. They are a scary team in an AFC conference that is not nearly as strong as the NFC. Buffalo, I mean, eventually it's got to be their year. They are a strong team. They could have made the Super Bowl any of the last 3 seasons. They haven't yet. Kansas City's always going to be there. They're tough, but they're not unstoppable. I think they can get knocked out. I could see this being a Buffalo versus LA Chargers type of AFC. Can one of those teams nudge the other to get to the Super Bowl? NFC wise, Dallas, I mean, they have a chance. They have a strong team. Can they do it? They haven't done it. I don't know. Two teams I'm looking at for each conference: Niners at plus 600, Chargers at plus 2,500.
Yeah, I think the Chargers is interesting. Is Herbert going to get over that? I mean, going back to the even the borderline Drew Brees years when he was there, they always had that great team, but could never quite put the piece together. Obviously, throughout the whole Philip Rivers tenure there as well. Is
And
this a
then
year where Herbert's arm can carry them?
Absolutely, and I think it can. He is a strong mobile quarterback. Eckler's been fantastic this season. I really think that defense can hold its own. We'll see. But at plus 2,500 in a weaker AFC conference, that's a team that could make a run. But also one team no everyone's sleeping on right now is Cincinnati. Nobody's talking about the Bengals. They have been hot as heck lately in Cincinnati. So just taking us through the final week, looking at the division odds, Eagles minus 1,200 to win the division. They should get Jalen Hurts back for the final week. And then that head-to-head matchup of Jacksonville and Tennessee. Jacksonville minus 285 favorites to basically win that game. So Titans on a backup quarterback, but they have been battle tested. They have the proven coach. Peterson obviously won a Super Bowl as well, but never in Jacksonville. Here are your odds for the final week of the season. Who wins the NFC East and who wins the AFC South? Odds are heavily in favor of the Eagles and in favor of the Jaguars.
Yeah, I think for me, this one plays by the book. I think Jacksonville takes it. I think they finally pounced on that opportunity to get back in since that Blake Bortles season, and I think Philly closes the book. I think, with them beating the Giants, I think they look to take care of business.
Awesome. So heading into that final week of the season, let's get back into regular season mode before we hit the playoffs. Let's talk some strategies and some picks for the upcoming week of the NFL season. Spencer, anything that sticks out to you for week 18?
Yeah, so I'm looking at my drive extender strategy. I've got 4 games coming up this week. I've got Cleveland covering at Pittsburgh. I like Cleveland. I really don't think Pittsburgh's that strong, although Pickett is rounding into form a little bit. Got Detroit plus 4.5 at Green Bay. I know you mentioned Detroit's bad on the road. This is an outdoor game as well. Goff, not necessarily an outdoor strong quarterback. I think Detroit's going to put this one together. I got the Giants. I know I just said Philly's going to win. I don't necessarily think they'll win by 14 points. Giants plus 14, that's a lot to lay. Baltimore covering at Cincinnati. Baltimore's been sketchy. I could see Cincinnati blowing this one open, but if I can get the lines on the right side of a touchdown, I could take Baltimore.
Awesome. I think for me, I'm going with some of the newer systems that we built. Last week, we did have one that ran the table, a 3-0 sweep, and that was the run and defend after a loss strategy. So that had Arizona plus 3.5 at Atlanta. They covered. Cleveland plus 2.5. They won. And then Seattle plus 1.5 at home against the Jets. All three of those covered. 2 of them won outright. So this week, looking at that strategy, just for those interested, we're going to see some teams that you may want to throw on, ride a strategy that's hot. We'll start in New Orleans. It likes Carolina plus 3.5 on the road. They are a close underdog. Close underdogs for this system have hit at 61% since September of 2019. So, give you a little context. And the second game it likes is your Chicago Bears plus 3.5, your second team, at home against the Vikings.
Never owned them.
But they're in your city. So, Bears at home, Panthers on the road, if that's a strategy you like. One I've been going with has been the defensive pressure strategy. That's done well for me. So let's look at a couple games for the upcoming week. New England plus 7.5 at Buffalo. So we've been back testing this one since the start of this season, and really we have seen a ton of success, a 68% win percentage, and that's with a over 30 game sample size. That's just from this season. Spencer, lost you for a second. Welcome back. The
Good to
Giants
be back.
plus 14 at Philly. We'll see how Philly plays this. I mean, for Philly, it's win and get out healthy.
Exactly.
I'm not. I don't think they're looking for a blowout. The Giants are already in, so we'll see if they give too much a ton of effort. They don't want to show too much to the other side in case they play in the playoffs. Cleveland plus 3 at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's playing for a playing for a playoff berth. I don't think Pittsburgh messes around here, so I'm not going to bet that one. Tampa Bay plus 3 at Atlanta. We'll see what they give. They're already in as well. Denver plus 3.5 at home against the Chargers. That could be a sneaky one. I could see Denver coming away there. And then your Detroit Lions plus 4.5 at Green Bay. Green Bay playing for a playoff spot. I don't think Detroit covers there. But those are all the games in the defensive pressure strategy. A few I like, a few I don't. We'll see how the rest of the week plays out with the odds and how they move. But for now, those are some of the games that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think we got an awesome slate. I think some big things to fizzle out over the next week as we gear up for the playoffs.
Yeah, it just kind of pains me. I liked Jacksonville maybe a month or two ago when they were good. Then they fell down a little. They had huge odds to win the division. I mean, just huge in the thousands. And I didn't take it. Should have taken it. Comes down to the final week. We'll see if they have the mental fortitude to push through against the Titans and Tennessee. So that's it for our Week 18 episode. We've enjoyed having a great season with you all, tracking our bets and following along. We look forward to the playoffs in the following week, but we'll be back here next week going through our picks, and just wanted to leave again. Our thoughts and prayers are with DeMar Hamlin, his family, and the Buffalo Bills. So we wish the best for them and the NFL going forward, and we'll see you next week.